Are you an overwhelmed SaaS founder ready to make the leap from leading a team to leading an organization? Join us each week as we refill your think tank with actionable tips and strategies from great business minds you know and those you don't know yet. This is SaaS Fuel with your host, 5-time entrepreneur, SaaS founder, and globetrotting adventurer, Jeff Maines.
Welcome back to the SaaS Fuel podcast, where our SaaS founders don't just talk or dabble, they execute and do. I'm your host, Jeff Maines. Yeah, SaaS founders we work with, they aren't passive investors or consultants or executives. They are, at their core, doers. And I'm constantly amazed and inspired at the great things that they're doing and creating. Over the past few weeks, I've had some amazing founder conversations about progress, strategic shifts, and plans as we head into a really uncertain fourth quarter. Mark Cuban says that wherever there is change and wherever there is uncertainty, there is opportunity. And I think that's dead on correct. We're headed into a season like we haven't seen in years. It's kind of a weird time. It's an uncertain time for sure. But you as a SaaS founder and leader are uniquely positioned to seize the opportunity that's in front of you. The greatest advantage most of you have is agility and your ability to quickly adapt to trends and market changes. Some of the big companies, even in SaaS, are really slow to move. And as founders, it's still easy to get sucked into gloom and doom forecasts, and don't do it. Turn off the news. Don't watch or listen to garbage. Fill your head with ideas and keep your eyes open and looking for opportunities, because if you do, you will see them. You ever buy a car or start looking for one and you didn't notice them before, but now you see them everywhere, often in the exact same color as yours. You thought it was unique, one of a kind. They only had one of those. Favorite color. But now you see it everywhere. And the same thing can happen with opportunities. They could be new clients, product enhancements, partnerships, promotions, ideas, or maybe even acquisitions. But keep your eyes open as we head into this new season, and you will be amazed at what you see and that the opportunities are around you. They're there all the time, but we just don't see them, kind of like those cars on the road, until we start focusing in. And that's where we start seeing them everywhere. In last week's episode, we talked with Mike Redd, Chief Marketing Officer of Quala.io, customer service platform for SaaS businesses that is powered by intelligence mined from interactions between customers and frontline teams. So if you missed that episode, it was a great conversation. Go back and give that a listen and learn all about how client success can be a lot smarter, way faster. My guest this week is Cheng, CEO of Supercharge Lab, which uses AI for marketing and client acquisition. Now, this isn't an old school ads manager with an AI label slapped on the front of it. It's an all-encompassing digital marketing solution that allows you to sit back, relax, and supercharge your growth. It's a really impressive solution. Anne is an equally impressive entrepreneur. She's a serial entrepreneur who sold 2 of her previous startups and pays it forward. She is all about innovation, social enterprise, and humanitarian causes, all of which I love, and spends her time helping small businesses improve their efficiency and build sustainable innovations that can impact humanity. So welcome with me, founder, funder, CEO, and marketer extraordinaire, Anne Cheng. Well, hey, Anne, welcome to SaaS Fuel.
Thanks for having me, Jeff. I'm really excited to be here.
I'm really excited to have you. I'd love to hear a little bit about your journey and how you started Supercharge Labs.
Wow, that's a long story, really. But maybe we can start with my startup journey. A couple of decades ago, I started getting fascinated with why we make specific decisions, how we think, and how that influences decisions. And how what information we require to make a really, really good decision. For example, when we talk about buying something, oftentimes we out in Asia where I first started, we needed to get 3 quotes from different vendors, and we then had to compare the value of each quote and what's the after sales service. We needed to compare who else in my competitors was using this particular solution. What are the stats? What are the performance guidelines? All that jazz. And that struck me as really rudimentary. So back in the old days before, we became super digital, we used to take lots of papers and, put it together, put an Excel spreadsheet together and make comparisons. And then I decided to start, a company back in, I believe, 2006, 2008, in that period. And that was to basically do that Excel spreadsheet only on steroids. We were able to help our clients in that period of time to boost their sales by 300% by giving customers only the information that they needed in order to make an informed decision. Fast forward to my days as a startup investor, I discovered how so many startups didn't know what they were doing. We built a lot of infrastructure to help startups to make better decisions. And then I fast forward again, 2018 rolls around, and here I am consulting for the world's largest companies. And guess what? They don't know what they're doing either. So you think that a startup who doesn't have, financial muscle, doesn't have might, doesn't have the ability to hire the best person, cannot make the right decision efficiently. But guess what? The people all the way up there, with all that financial muscle, with all that experience and that legacy and the right people from, Stanford and Harvard, they still don't make the right decisions oftentimes. So what's missing here? What's missing is data. What's missing is intelligence. What's missing is the ability to peer into the future. And so how I started Supercharge Lab was literally this fascination with what cognition, what triggers the cognition, the cognitive process of decision-making behavior. So we started our first solution. We called it Sigmund. For obvious reasons, it's all about neuroscience. It's all about cognition. And the first decision we went after was the sales decision. We said, if I could provide better messaging, better data, can we help people buy better? Not to let people sell more, but to help people buy better. And by helping people to buy better, our clients started to sell more, if that makes sense. Fast forward a little bit more, and we launched the second product, Sigmund Marketing. So we helped to dissect why people engage with brands, why people resonate with brands. And recently in 2022, just about 5 months ago, we actually launched our Sigmund, which was our predictive analytics solution, which essentially has the singular purpose of predicting how profitable or how predicting the future by understanding the reasons why we make decisions. So that's the journey to Supercharge Lab.
Wow, that is amazing. So how did you make your decisions to start companies, to exit companies, and continue your journey through marketing and helping other people make better decisions?
Yeah, so I started my first company, and I failed several times. When I was very young, I would start a website, and I would think, oh, everybody's gonna come to my website and transact. And obviously, you're one of a gazillion websites, and nobody came. I borrowed money from my mom and borrowed money from my brother. I failed many times, and then I guess at a certain point, I discovered that it was all about helping people. So when I started my first company, which I exited, the truth is we helped a customer achieve its goal. So at the end of the day, it dawned on me that you cannot run a successful company if you're not going to help somebody do something that they need to, achieve. So why I came to a point where I was able to create the impetus for Sigmund was simply because I said, what do people need help with? And the rest is history. Today we have multiple Sigmund products, and we even have had so much interest in the latest product, Ask Sigmund, that one of the clients who we were building for looked at us and said, instead of giving you the money to build Ask Sigmund, why don't I buy out your company? And this was not the only company that said the exact same thing. So yeah, we've had quite a good run, and we're very excited with what the future's going to bring.
That's great. Well, it seems obvious that better decisions are going to, have better revenue and better companies. But so what are the tangible benefits? Somebody implements Sigmund. What do they get? How do they use that data to help people make better buying decisions?
Well, I think at the end of the day, it's knowing yourself better. I think we tend to try to find out so much about the world around us that we fail to remember that first we need to know what our limitations are, what our our skills and advantages are, and what our value proposition is. So the first thing that Ask Sigmund does is that it plugs data that you already have and unlocks the value of that data. It uses dynamic external data feeds to augment your data and understand what you're trying to predict. For example, if I want to predict if what's the best sale to pursue, say I have a whole bunch of leads in my CRM and I want to understand what does this customer really want, what are the challenges this customer faces, what are the ways that the decision makers are thinking about the problem. If I had all that and I scored it based against profitability, as a salesperson, as a representative of the organization, I would immediately know exactly how much effort to apply to it, the strategy to apply to a particular sale, and at the end of the day, the approach. What's the most important way to build rapport? You might say that there are many solutions out there that look at facial recognition, see if it sees if the person on the other end of the line is happy or positive and stuff like that. At the end of the day, if you're not solving a problem, we can build all the rapport in the world, and you're still not going to get a sale. And likewise, it's vice versa. If you have all the solutions, but you cannot engage with a person on their level, you're gonna fail anyway.
So is it something that could be considered, self-fulfilling? If we have a prediction and then we put the effort into that and then it happens, would the same outcome have happened if we hadn't put the effort in, or we had treated it like anything else? How do we know that prediction works?
Yeah, that's a really fascinating question, and by far one of the most unique questions I've ever been asked. So one of the things about prediction is that it feeds off data that you give it, as well as data in the marketplace, the external dynamic data that I'd like to talk about. So I think one of the biggest things is what it helps you set yourself apart from a cognitive perspective. But yes, you're absolutely right. Sometimes it's that self-fulfilling prophecy, right? You say to a particular your team members, hey, customer A seems to be, very disengaged. Let's apply, a lot more effort into this particular client, only because I think we can upsell and, resell certain solutions to this client. So when you see that, the prediction says, oh, it's highly likely that this particular client is going to re-engage with you, you then realize that you kind of fulfill that loop, you close that loop by applying your effort into it. But then again, being a sales professional, as a business owner, you have to be a sales professional, right? And I've seen a lot of sales professionals who apply a whole bunch of effort into, sales, but, they never close a single sale, no matter how much effort you've applied into it. So I'm not sure. I think it's really prediction science is something which is evolving. I think with a large proportion of your time, if you have confidence, you would apply a large proportion of your time to the best outcomes. People who are open to conversing with you, people who are open to setting a test with you. So there are two ways to look at things.
That makes sense. So how can SaaS companies use prediction models, predictive analytics to help grow their business?
I think it's really, there are multiple ways, especially when we talk about SaaS companies. There are different types of SaaS companies. The small companies, they can look at sales predictions. So I think when you're smaller, you focus a lot on building revenue, building recurring income. When you're a little bit larger, you start looking at the return on investment with all your initiatives, whether it's a marketing initiative, whether it's a research and development initiative, whether it's a product management initiatives. So when you are able to predict the outcomes, the profitability of any particular project or initiative, that will help you run your business a lot more efficiently. For example, if I could predict exactly when logistics are, best purchased, warehouse availability, logistics availability, I can reduce my costs. Or for example, if I talk about marketing, if I can predict return on ad spend to a level of confidence, I would know exactly whether I should apply my dollars to particular experiments, marketing experiments, instead of others. So I guess it's really a question of what you need. Predictive analytics today, unfortunately, I see a lot of people applying it to what we call standard use cases. And I see that, custom use cases are being done by the big boys like IBM and Microsoft. And the unfortunate thing is that it costs you millions of dollars in order to apply predictive analytics. Whereas the smaller predictive analytics companies who charge a lot less, they're forcing you to have standardized use cases. Now, in order to have standardized use cases, you essentially will need to have what we call a standardized data fingerprint or a data warehouse that fits within their plug and play model. And that's essentially one of the few things which should not be ever done. It's like telling you, hey, Jeff, I think you should have the same fingerprint as me, which I don't think it's quite possible at this point. So just the same way, all of us collect data and view data in a very different way. So what we've been able to do is build a API which absorbs your data, or takes in your data in a very unstructured manner and puts it into a very structured platform before creating a custom use case. That's reduced costs, is democratized predictive analytics for a whole bunch of people.
That's interesting. I like that, the unstructured and then puts it into a structure. Is that so that you can connect things that are not necessarily, we wouldn't look at the data set and connect ourselves?
Yeah, for sure. I think one of the biggest things about AI is that AI is 90% data and 10% actual programming. So I think one of the biggest problems with AI is people not understanding how to do data engineering, data modeling, and stuff like that. So I think connecting the dots with data and helping people to see that it's not that difficult when it comes to data. I know that unstructured data and of course still data from disparate sources. I had a client who had 40 years of data in like 5 different formats, some in paper format, some in CD-ROMs back in the day. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
And then, reams and reams of papers and little hard drives, which look like, Bibles and encyclopedias. So, I think one of the things is helping people to see that data is not that difficult, even though it looks crazy. At the end of the day, how do we take unstructured data using AI and apply different facets of AI to creating structure in your data?
Well, one of the things you mentioned was use cases. And so I don't know if this would be a standard use case or a custom use case, but you said return on ad spend. And that is something that I think we all are interested in. I know that's something I'm always wondering, should I do this ad or that one, or, where do we put marketing dollars? How do the algorithms figure into that? And how do we know, what ads are going to work or not using analytics like that?
That's really fascinating because I think that's something which differs from platform to platform. So I'm sure you know that Facebook's algorithm and Google's algorithm has been changing, particularly in the last couple of weeks and months. You see a whole lot of changes in your traffic, in in the way things work on Facebook, on the new iOS, APIs. So at the end of the day, it differs from platform to platform. So the long answer is to say, hey, we took the algorithms, we tried to reverse engineer the algorithms, but at the end of the day, it boils down to this one thing called experimentation. So the prediction collects data dynamically. So that's the most important thing. A lot of times when you do performance marketing, you spend 7 days waiting for the winner or the loser of the test, and then you take the winner, and then you put on another test, and you see what works, and then you predict whether it's the winner. This campaign is the winner or the loser, and it's an iterative process. So what we've been able to do is not need to wait till the end of each cycle to be able to predict the winner. We are able to shut down losers early on. We're able to predict winners early on, and then we keep on iterating. So the learning is faster, and that helps you to predict, your return on ad spend quite quickly ahead of time. So of course, there is going to be this part where it's a hit or miss. So it says, okay, we predict that it's got a profitability of 2.57, but we don't know how confident it is. It might say, we're confident of the elasticity score or the performance score being 2.57 or the ROAS being 2.57 at a confidence level of maybe about 68%. Do you want to go ahead or not? So as it learns, it becomes more confident, and as it iterates, it will tell you exactly the score, whether you want to, keep going or do you want to stop.
I would love to know that in hours or days instead of weeks.
Absolutely.
So you find winners a lot faster. So I think there's a huge benefit. But does this work for small to medium-sized companies as well, or is predictive analytics and what we're talking about here really just for the big guys?
So I will say that it's moving towards the smaller guys. So let's put things in context, right? So in North America, where we work right now, the small guys have $1 million budgets. So the big guys have $1 billion budgets. So when we talk about small, the question is how small are we talking about? Predictive analytics, yes, it is expensive because it takes a lot of data engineering, and that's probably where the cost is. But to be honest, is it that expensive? No, it's not in the millions. What the big boys are charging are in the $1 million figures. The smallest companies that I've seen charge about 50,000 as a starting rate. Is that affordable to your solopreneur? No. Is that sustainable for a funded startup? Definitely.
Sure. So you say you're in North America today, and you talked before about experience in Asia. What is it like, working in different geographies with different cultures? What has that experience been like for you? And what are you doing today? Your team, is it all here? Do you have team abroad as well?
Yeah, I think coming from Asia, I think I've never quite left my heart, or rather, I've never quite brought my heart to North America. I love working here in North America. I love the buzz. I love the excellence and the rigor. But a large part of my heart is still in Asia, particularly in Southeast Asia. I actually just got back from a trip to see my team out in Southeast Asia, where I'm from. I'm from Singapore originally.
Beautiful country.
It's a wonderful
small,
place.
But a beautiful place.
small but really impactful.
Yes.
So I think things have changed a lot post-pandemic with Southeast Asia. People are, starting to open up. So an extremely fragmented market. So anything you see in Singapore versus Malaysia and Thailand, it's a completely different culture. So we're being able to work with Southeast Asians because people are so different, just 100 miles away from each other, and they're completely different cultures. And I think that has given me a lot of resilience in working in the US market where, it's not as fragmented culturally. A lot of the way we do business in Chicago versus the way we do business in Michigan or New York, it's hardly very different. But culturally in Southeast Asia, it's very different. So I think it gives you that adaptability to really learn how to engage with people on their level in a different way.
So how has that adaptability served you as an entrepreneur?
I think it's served me well. I think it's helped me to engage, to connect with people on a very human level. As much as I am such a purveyor of what AI can do for understanding why we make decisions, at the end of the day, without that human connection, AI can only do that much. So I'm not sure if anybody has watched Top Gun Maverick. Quick plug-in. You guys all know my age now. But it's the pilot, not the plane. And that's absolutely true.
Yes. And that's true with analytics as well. It's not just the data, but it's the human element and the interpretation and the action behind that. But at the end of the day, it's all human connection. So we're talking about real people, real relationships, not just data or algorithms, as they're real people.
Exactly. And we have to realize this, that humans build machines. So at the end of the day, you've heard of AI, getting bias, incorporating biases and making bad decisions only because it's built essentially by humans.
So is AI going to take over the world? We have to worry about Skynet?
That is a great question because I've long talked about singularity, technological singularity. And I'm not sure if you noticed, I think about a couple of weeks ago, Google's DeepMind just said that we have achieved, human singularity. So singularity, that AI that has the ability to think like a human being. So will AI one day take over the world? I don't know. And if it does, it's not going to be nice because, we humans have not necessarily been nice all the time. But
unfortunately, that's true.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's true. We are very polarized. We're very opinionated, and sometimes we err on the wrong side of truth, right? So I think on the subject of singularity, there is a huge movement. I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but there is a huge movement to provide ethics and ethical compass for artificial intelligence. And it's a growing movement, and I think there is hope that at some point, hopefully, technology will learn to be compassionate.
We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to ask Anne about the biggest lessons that she has learned as an entrepreneur and how we can apply them to our businesses today.
Today's episode is sponsored by Champion Leadership Group. Get free growth tools and map out a growth plan to scale your SaaS business beyond $10 million. Travel with fellow SaaS entrepreneurs on your growth journey using a proven methodology that is mentor-guided, results-focused, and peer-supported. Celebrate wins and quickly rebound from setbacks to achieve profitable growth, impact, and freedom. Unleash your SaaS growth at championleadership.com.
Well, welcome back to SaaS Fuel. My guest today, Anne Cheng from Supercharge Lab. And Anne, earlier you talked about failing a few times and trying different things. What are the biggest lessons that you've learned from those failures and that you've been able to carry forward that really launched your successes?
Yeah, I think so. I've actually failed many, many times. I failed for multiple reasons. I failed where I fell out with my co-founder. I failed where, we ran out of money. I failed where we didn't have a clear value proposition. So I failed many, many times. I failed because I was too early, and then, for early stage seed funding. That's a nice way of saying, sorry, we don't really want to fund you. But yeah, I failed for many reasons. And the biggest lesson I've learned is that failure is not final.
Love that.
I think the biggest thing that we need to know is that there's always a comeback. You just need to keep going, until you cannot go anymore, and then you take action. So I know that, sometimes you get too enamored by the idea of what you're building. You forget, to take a look at, things like what's in the bank, and you realize I have only half a month's runway left. What do I do right now to keep it going? So I'll say this: failure is not final. You can fail a gazillion times, and if you let it be final, it will be final. But if you pick yourself up and you say, what can I do today to move that needle? How can I make sure that today is not the day I shut down and I'm out of business? And even if today is the day that you shut down and you're out of business, perfectly fine. Perfectly fine. And tomorrow, I'll get up, dust myself off, and start again. So failure is never final.
That's a great, great lesson. And I've failed many, many times as well, and still do. So it's not something that's all in the past. I still make mistakes on a regular basis, probably too often. But mentors have been one of those things that have been hugely influential in me in preventing a lot of those mistakes. And I know mentoring is something you're passionate about as well. What role have mentors played in your success?
I think one of the biggest things is keeping me real. I think they ask the hard questions. Oftentimes we already know the answers to all the hard questions, but we just unable, or maybe it's not unable, but maybe we're just in denial sometimes, right? So
Of
sometimes
course.
we go, okay, you get it. This person is not good in the company. Why did you found the company with this person? And mentors just ask you questions which you already know the answers to. And they will say things like, that I'm speaking the truth. And you go, yeah, I know, I'm still in denial, but yes, I do know. So I think the biggest role of mentors is keeping us real, keeping us honest with ourselves, because the one thing which is the most dangerous thing is that we lie to ourselves too often, thinking that we can go on another day with this bad situation because it's gonna change. It's like marrying this bad person and hoping for the person to change. It's a long shot. It can happen, but really,
Right. So how have you paid that forward in mentoring other entrepreneurs?
yeah, I do a lot of that. But I think I always say that it's all about experience sharing and asking the questions that you know the answer to, right? It's helping you to come to your own realization of the truth. I do it with what we call experience shares, sharing what I did wrong, how I failed, and how I don't want that person to fail as well. I think growing up, I had a relative where he was always aspiring to be an entrepreneur, and I used to tell him, I love you too much for you to make the same mistakes I did. So I think mentoring is really about sharing that part of your heart and say, I don't want you to make the same mistakes I did, but at the same time being there for you if you do.
That's really powerful. Yeah,
So
because we are going to make mistakes.
yeah, you can't help it, right? When we're young, we all made the same mistakes. We rebelled against our parents, we acted out, we fell in love with the wrong person, we dyed our hair green. I mean, we've all done that, right?
Yep. No, that's really, really good. I think that's a great characterization of mentoring and what that's like. So if you could go back and tell yourself something back when you started in the very beginning, what would that be?
I started out being very headstrong, and I like to think that I was the center of the universe. I thought I was the New York of the world. So, I really wanted to be loved. And that was really the reason and the motivations to always, try to be loved and seek love. But I think as I grow older, I realized that, if you really want to seek love per se, the best way to get it is to give it.
Absolutely right. So where do you see technology going in the future? What will the world look like, say, 5 years from now?
Well, I think 5 years from now, we're going to go into a place where people are going to lose. I think people are going to get a little bit more doubtful that the world is becoming a better place. However, 20 years from now, or 10 years from 10, 15, 20 years from now, I'll say this: people are going to find their faith in humanity again. I think the next generation is going to be one which is going to inspire the Top Gun generation a lot. So I think a lot of the current generation is getting a little bit jaded with the way technology is going, where people are becoming less human, people are becoming more distracted. Humans are engaging with each other a lot less than we used to. As individuals, we have 5 people at a dinner table and all of them are, scrolling their phones. That's the current situation that we're in. However, in 10 to 20 years, I see that the next generation is one which is very different. I was just speaking to a friend and she told me, my kids today, they're like 10 and they hold a credit card, and we're teaching them financial literacy. They're making their own decisions. I have a lot of hope for the next generation to lead us to the proverbial promised land, where we become a little bit more compassionate, we become a little bit more connected. We see a lot of people in the marketing space that the younger generation are people who actually go into stores. Whereas, you see a lot of the Gen Xers and the millennials hiding behind computer screens and literally not even getting out of their pajamas, ordering food, ordering everything from Amazon, living on Zoom, typing on social networks. So yeah, I think things are going to change, and I think it's going to change for the better. Give it time.
Well, that sounds like a great world, a good transition, more back to human connection and
Sure.
real life relationships, not just digital. So where can people find out more about you and about Supercharge Lab online?
Well, Google Supercharge Lab. You'll definitely find our website, our LinkedIn, our Facebook, our Twitter, our Insta. Don't have a Pinterest yet. We have a YouTube. So it's, our handle is at Supercharge Lab on almost every platform except for Instagram. It's at supercharge.lab. You can find me on LinkedIn. I literally respond to almost every message. You can find me on Facebook. I also do respond to almost every message, and I give back to a lot of Facebook groups by sharing my knowledge across female founders globally.
That's fantastic. Yeah, giving back is so huge. I really appreciate you doing that and being on the show. This was a great conversation.
Thank you, Jeff. It was such a brilliant time in speaking with you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Well, thanks again to Anne for coming on the show and sharing your insights and resources. Learn more about Anne and Supercharge Lab at superchargelab.com. As always, all links, highlights, resources, and full show notes are available at saasfuel.com. So please subscribe or follow us at saasfuel.com. Every time a new person subscribes, 16 enterprise CTOs have sweet dreams about choosing your SaaS solution. It's true. Scientifically proven, completely made up fact. But subscribe anyway, and it just might work for you. Join us next week for a conversation with Colton Griffin, CEO of Flourish Software, a leading supply chain management and seed-to-sale tracking software solution for the cannabis, CBD, and hemp verticals. It's a fun, maybe a bit controversial, but mostly fun episode that gives an inside look into the industry, technology, and amazing sophistication and compliance challenges from seed to store. It is a fascinating conversation. So come back, check it out next week. And until we meet again, enjoy the journey.
Thanks for listening to SaaS Fuel. Full show notes for each episode, which includes a summary, key takeaways, quotes, and any resources mentioned, are available at saasfuel.com. Be sure to follow and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you're enjoying the content and getting value from these episodes, please leave us a rating and review at ratethispodcast.com/saasfuel. We'll be sure to read these out on future episodes.